when you think of the world's most expensive luxury items, I would dare to guess that you picture a Himalaya Birkin or a Cartier diamond bracelet. But what if I told you that the world's most exclusive luxury brands don't just create these record-shattering $1 million items that you'll know of, but they actually offer things like dog bowls, jukeboxes, and even makeup bags for the price of a car? Well, in today's video, we're going to be diving into the world's most expensive and outrageous luxury items that you might not even know of existing. What I find incredibly hard to wrap my head around is the fact that there are people out there who are willing to spend their hard-earned money on these things, because I feel like even if I was a billionaire, I still couldn't justify spending my money on these things just out of principle. But I guess to each their own. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Are these pieces the new definition of luxury, or have luxury brands completely lost the plot and they are just out of touch with reality? I would love for this to become a conversation in the comment section. And without further ado, if you'd like to hear my incredibly honest thoughts on some of the most obscenely priced luxury items out there, then make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet, and keep on watching. Of course, I cannot do a video talking about some of the most expensive luxury items out there without at least mentioning the iconic diamond-encrusted Himalaya Birkin, which for years held the record of the most expensive bag being sold at auction, which has recently been dethroned by Jane Birkin's original Birkin, which sold earlier this year for over $10 million. But before that, the diamond encrusted Himalaya Birkin was one of the bags that was known for selling for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction. I think the bag that held the first place of the most expensive bag being sold was a Birkin 35 in the Himalaya finish with diamond encrusted hardware, and it's a bag that was sold for $500,000. Now, in my personal opinion, that was more of a press move, both for the company sourcing the bag and also the person buying it, because they took full advantage of the fact that they broke records of this bag being sold on the secondary market for almost $500,000. I really don't think that in reality that was the most expensive bag being sold, because I'm sure that there are people out there who you could not pay that much money to go on camera and talk about how much money they spend on their most expensive bags. But of course, the Himalaya Birkin is an extremely rare creation. It is known as the crown jewel of the Hermes world and the most coveted piece by Hermes collectors, because it is an incredibly rare piece. However, it is not the most expensive bag being produced by Hermes. There is, of course, the Kelly Midas, which launched last year. It's a bag that I feel like I've been talking about a lot. It is a Kelly 25 in cellier structure, which you can either buy in box leather or in croc, that features solid gold hardware. So a part of the handle and also the twist closure is made of 18 karat solid rose gold, and that bag in box leather will set you back over $110,000 directly from the store, and in croc it I think is around $153,000, something along those lines. And it is actually a bag that is now being expanded on, because now they're offering it in new colors too. Previously, it was only available in black box and black croc, but it is now going to be available in navy blue too, which is really quite special. But that is a bag that is significantly more expensive than just a regular Himalaya would be. Well, I guess it also depends on the size. And then, of course, there are Himalaya Birkins that will feature solid gold hardware encrusted with diamonds and different precious gems. But white diamonds are not the only gems that Hermes bags will feature. There are much more rare ones. There are bags that feature yellow diamonds or even sapphires, which might actually be one of a kind. But when we move on to the world of the so-called Sac Bijou, which are bags inspired by some of Hermès's most iconic shapes, so the Birkin and the Kelly. And even though these are functional bags, but they are made like a piece of high jewelry would be. We have the Sac Bijou Kelly Morphosis, which is inspired by, as the name suggests, the Kelly bag, not to be confused with the mini Kelly, even though it is a Kelly bag in a mini size, because this shape stays true to the original Kelly bag, but it does come in an itty bitty mini size. It's crafted from solid 18 karat rose gold, and it features up to 80 carats of either diamonds or sapphires. And then we also have a bijou take on the Birkin bag too, which will feature over 2,700 individual stones, which can be either diamonds if you choose to pick this bag up in rose gold, or late last year they also launched a rainbow version of the Sac Birkin. If you're an avid Hermes collector, I don't think I revealed anything groundbreaking here. I'm sure that you're already familiar with the diamond encrusted Himalaya bags, but you might have not heard of the Sac Bijou range. However, there is a piece that I feel like much fewer people know of, even though it's something that I discussed in a recent What's New from Hermes update of mine. If you're a fan of Hermes and you don't follow this series of mine, I don't know what you're waiting for, because I try to discuss the latest and greatest Hermes launches every single month that should be on shelves. So if you want to know about everything launching from Hermes, that is an amazing resource for you. But we talked about the Hermes jukebox, which is something that launched a couple of years ago, and it seems to be doing so well that Hermes continues expanding on this line. They have just launched it in new colors and new finishes. But if you've never heard of these jukeboxes, well, that might be because of the price. One of these will set you back 310,000 euros. Yes, you heard that right. Now, obviously, these are a huge, bold statement piece for your home that people are actually buying, believe it or not, even though it's not my personal aesthetic. But if you're looking for a truly show-stopping kind of retro creation that is inspired by the jukeboxes of the 1950s, this is an incredibly crafted handmade version of it that takes hours and hours of meticulous work to complete. Each and every single detail is handmade, and of course it features Hermes's savoir-faire of working with some of the world's best quality leathers out there. This entire jukebox is hand wrapped in leather, and it is truly magnificent when it comes to the details. For example, the record player will actually feature the mascot of Hermes, who gracefully dances on the vinyl that you choose to play. Not to mention that the jukebox itself is based on a hand-blown Murano glass stand, base, or sculpture, depending on how you choose to look at it. And as I mentioned, this jukebox is available in several different colors now. Now, I completely understand that these are essentially a piece of art. These allow Hermes to push their boundaries and use them almost as a creative outlet and create pieces that no one else is able to. These creations truly allow them to showcase their craftsmanship, their heritage, and just their capabilities on how far they can take their savoir-faire, which I have a lot of appreciation for. What I find more ridiculous actually are pieces that are a lot less expensive in comparison to these multi-million-dollar pieces, but they are meant for everyday use. And this video was actually inspired by a dog bowl that I was looking to buy for Pi. It's a piece that I came across in the fall winter lookbook a handful of months ago when I first got that, but in the lookbook there are no prices revealed. So as soon as I saw it, I knew it was something that I would be interested in buying, until I found out how much it was going to be. And here I am talking about the new Punch dog bowls, which Hermes is doing in two different sizes, in small and large, which are extremely simple, solid stainless steel dog bowls that feature the Clou de Forge debossing, which I love. It all sounds great. It looks really modern. It looks polished. And because Pi already has a little Hermes collection going, I thought this would be the perfect next step to add to my collection. And I really did not think that it would be that expensive, considering that these bowls are just made of stainless steel, and stainless steel bowls are some of the least expensive type of bowls money can buy. You can go to a pet store and pick up a stainless steel bowl for a couple of dollars. It really should not break the bank. Now, obviously, I did not expect this to be on par with ordinary pet store dog bowls, but I did not expect them to start at 1600 euros either, because the small dog bowl starts at 1600 euros, and then I think the larger one will be just around 1850, which to me is just shocking, considering that these are made of stainless steel. At the end of the day, they feature no craftsmanship, no leather details. I highly doubt that there is anything handmade about them, because how can you possibly make stainless steel by hand? It would be just a waste of money and resources. I assume that these are poured into a mold, and it doesn't matter how substantial the stainless steel is. I cannot imagine anyone wanting to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a simple stainless steel bowl. Now, it goes without saying that this Hermes dog bowl is not the most expensive pet accessory out there. Actually, far from that. Goyard and Louis Vuitton has pet bowls that are much more expensive than the one punch bowl offered by Hermes for fall winter. But even though some of the Louis Vuitton dog bowls will set you back over $2,000, I actually think that there is a little bit more effort and love that goes into those pieces. Some of them are featured by their heritage trunk making. They feature the Louis Vuitton monogram. They have a unique lid to them, and they're not just a simple piece of solid stainless steel. Now, I'm not saying that those are pieces that I would be encouraged to buy, because I still prefer the look of the Hermes one, but I feel like there is more that goes into those creations compared to this very simple, low effort piece. But while we are on the topic of Louis Vuitton, there are a handful of pieces that I wanted to mention here, starting with their dog trunk, not to be confused with their dog carrier. Here we are looking at a solid trunk inspired dog house that was launched by Pharrell last year as part of the Lovers Pet collection, and this is a dog house that will set you back $66,000, which again is just mind-blowing. But at least with this piece, you are getting a beautiful statement creation, whereas with those low effort dog bowls, you can tell how bitter I am about those pieces. I really don't think that they would add that much to your home. Now, again, I'm not saying that the price is comparable here, but I think there is a lot more effort that goes into the creation of these dog trunks that are suede lined, and of course pay very honest and authentic tribute to the brand's heritage trunk making. They are made of the monogram canvas material, and you can actually have the name tag customized on these dog houses. So that was kind of an outrageous launch that I came across last year, but that's not the end of it when it comes to Louis Vuitton, because they've had some pretty crazy launches this year. So let's talk about their new beauty launch. In case you were not aware, Louis Vuitton has just entered the makeup game with the launch of 55 shades of lipsticks, 10 lip balms, and a handful of eyeshadow palettes. I think there are 8 different shades. And what was ridiculous and quite controversial is that the lipsticks started at $160, or I should say they were $160 a piece, and then the eyeshadow palettes were $250. Now I can tell you, which you'll probably already know, but I am someone who used to work in cosmetic development. I know exactly how much it costs to produce makeup, lipstick, fragrances, and of course it's not nearly as much as Louis Vuitton is charging, even if it is made of the most unbelievably rare ingredients. These price tags are still not justified. But I would love to hear your thoughts on this launch. If you're a Louis Vuitton fan, are you going to be trying their lipsticks and their eyeshadows? I would love to hear your thoughts. I'm not someone who wears makeup, but I am actually quite tempted to try their $160 lip balm just because I love an expensive lip balm, and also these lip balms are refillable, and of course when you first buy them you have to buy the expensive stainless steel, again stainless steel, you have to buy that expensive stainless steel case, but you only have to buy that once, and afterwards each refill will be $69 a piece, which is still an insane amount of money to spend on a lip balm, but it's a lot more justifiable than spending $160 on each piece, because $69 for a lipstick or a lip balm is really not unheard of in this day and age. But I would love to hear your thoughts on this new makeup line. Is this something that you'll be buying into? Is this something you'll be testing? I really don't think that it is going to be the piece or the pieces that will keep the lights on at Louis Vuitton, but I think it is a great upsell. So if you go into Louis Vuitton to buy a handbag, it's something that you can really easily be convinced to just quickly add to your cart, because it's kind of a foot in the door strategy. Once they have convinced you to spend thousands of dollars on a bag, it is going to sound much more accessible or reasonable to also spend $160 on a lipstick. Again, I don't think it's going to be revolutionary. I don't think any one of these pieces will change your life, but if you love beautiful packaging, if you love that luxury experience, these are things that I think you would enjoy having in your collection. And then something that is very much on trend these days and plays into the whole labubu over accessorizing trend is the new Louis Vuitton bear back charms, which there are 4 of. Each ensemble is inspired by one of Pharrell's iconic runway collections, and these pieces will set you back over $1,200. They are handmade in Italy using man-made fur and leather. Now, I was quite surprised that they chose to use synthetic fur for these pieces, because Louis Vuitton is not against using real fur. I know that some people are, but Louis Vuitton as a brand isn't. They have a lot of pieces in their collections, both for men and women, made of things like mink and even shearling. So the fact that they chose to use synthetic fur for this, to me, was kind of surprising, and it did not feel like a conscious choice, more of a way to cut corners. But of course, it very much plays into the craze of the labubu. Tell me, do you prefer the labubu or the Louis Vuitton bears? And one more piece that I just had to mention here, which is definitely not the most ridiculously overpriced piece I've seen from Louis Vuitton, because they've even done things like speakers, portable speakers that literally felt like something you got from Temu. But this is a new bag launching for fall winter, which is their lantern shaped trunk bag, which are inspired by the street lamps of the Pont Neuf in Paris. It either comes in black leather or in the iconic Louis Vuitton monogram, and these creations can be yours for $24,000. Now, Louis Vuitton claims that the reason these bags are so expensive is because you can either carry them as a handbag, or you can use them in your home as an actual lantern, because the lighting system can be removed from the bag and it allows you to use the case as a fully functional bag, or just keep it in your home and use it as a little portable lamp. But to me, it is, it's meant for the Louis Vuitton collector who's truly looking for something unbelievably unique and not functional. But if you love novel, unique shapes, just know that there is also a lantern shaped bag, one that does not come with a bulb inside, but has this very same street lamp shape to it, which can be yours for the very accessible price of $7,000, crafted from Louis Vuitton's iconic monogram canvas. And before we move on to a brand new luxury launch from a brand that is definitely not one that is often thought of as a true luxury brand, it is a launch that I actually changed my mind about. I was very much against it at first, but the more I thought about it, the more it grew on me and the more I understood their approach. But before we talk about that brand and that new launch, we have to mention Chanel here, which Chanel is a brand that's definitely no stranger to obscene price tags. And here I am not just referring to their aggressive pricing strategy and all these insane price increases that they've become notorious for, but they of course also have an haute couture range which is so insanely expensive that only a few hundred people in the world can afford to buy regularly, or I should say choose to buy regularly. But something that is equally expensive, well, kind of in the same range or in the same vein, I should say, something that you can buy directly off the shelf is Chanel's minaudières bags, which is actually a concept that was first invented by Van Cleef, and it was only adopted by Chanel decades later. It was actually Karl Lagerfeld's idea to introduce this range of collectibles, which are essentially little sculpture-like bags that Chanel claims are fully functional, and yes, you can open and close them, but you want to be careful with how often you do that, because I actually have a friend who collects these creations, and I know from her first-hand experience how unbelievably finicky and delicate these pieces are. She has this one bag in particular, which is inspired by an ancient coin with an owl on it. And I remember someone bumping into her and the bag fully broke, the fastening of the bag. She could no longer use because someone accidentally bumped into her bag, and it took Chanel month and month and month and several rounds of this bag going back and forth for it to be fixed, and it's something that to this day she's still quite nervous to use. But it is a huge range of Chanel collectibles which truly make an unbelievably bold statement. Each and every single season, Chanel will come out with one which is inspired by the overarching theme of the season. My personal favorite piece is the shipping container, and then there was also an incredible ski gondola that Karl Lagerfeld did for his final collection at Chanel in 2019, which truly the details on these pieces is just mind-blowing. They've also done things like helmets and bird cage inspired shapes that you could also use as a handbag, and these are things that will set you back tens and tens of thousands of dollars. It also depends on the season and how much detail goes into each and every single piece. For this current season, Chanel is doing a makeup palette inspired bag, which to me feels really kitschy and gimmicky. Also because Chanel is of course known for its makeup, but it's not nearly as luxurious as the Chanel range is. So to me, that was a really weird blend of these two worlds coming together, because this makeup palette inspired bag will set you back $19,000, and it really just feels kitschy and gimmicky to me. It reminds me of those huge makeup sets that people used to buy for kids. This season, I really feel like Chanel should have just let Mattel do its thing and let them create these makeup palette inspired bags, and they should have just come up with something more original, refined, and elegant, and something that is truly rooted in the heritage of the brand, and not something that just feels like a cop out. And last but not least, let's move on to a new launch from a brand that I definitely don't think is usually mentioned on the same page with Chanel, Hermes, and Louis Vuitton. But in my life, it is, because it is the brand that I live in. It is one of my favorite brands that I used to buy pieces from almost every single month. Now that is going to change because they have just opened 2 stores in Amsterdam, and it is starting to feel a little bit overdone and a little bit basic, which is Aloe, but it is a brand that I have been singing the praises of for the past year, which they definitely don't need me to promote them when the Kardashians are their ambassadors. But regardless of who's promoting them, I genuinely think that their cuts, fits, and materials are some of the best out there. I'm not saying that everything that they do is incredible, but their Triumph shorts and their Triumph tanks, and their running shorts are some of my favorites. I have them in every single color, and I have a ton of them in black because I genuinely live in those pieces. But in case you were not aware, they are just about to launch their new line of premium leather accessories. Because yes, Elo has always been seen as a more expensive athleisure brand. They're trying to take things to the next level, and they are launching a range of bags that will set you back thousands and thousands of dollars. They're trying to justify this launch by creating a range of bags that are handcrafted in Florence and that can be personalized with a crystal charm. Of course, Elo is all about intentions. The brand stands for air, land, and ocean. They started out as a yoga brand, so every single piece has a spiritual, intentional meaning behind it, and that's how these crystals tie in. You can personalize these bags with a crystal that you feel is most representative of your goals and aspirations and is in alignment with where you are trying to head in your life. And these are bags that will be exclusively available starting September 22nd. I think September 22nd is the day these bags are launching. So actually that's tomorrow, but these bags will not be sold online. They'll exclusively be available in person in 2 stores, either in New York, in Soho, or their Beverly Hills boutique. And then if you're interested in buying them remotely, I believe you can request an appointment with one of their personal shoppers who can help you source one of these bags. And speaking of bags, what kind of bags are they? So they're going to be offering 4 different styles. There's going to be the daily voyage bag, which is almost like Elo's take on a Speedy. This is the daily version, so it's something that you would carry on a regular basis. Then they have this exact same shape in a larger size, which is called the Voyage Duffel bag. The smaller one, I think the daily voyage is around $3,300, whereas the duffel is going to set you back $3,600. Yes, you heard that right. A brand that is selling sweaters for $150 will also try to sell you a bag for $3,600. Then they have a suede tote bag, which I think is called the Tranquility Tote, which comes in at $2,300 in 3 different shades. And then last but not least, the least expensive piece out of the bunch is the Balance Bucket Bag, which can be yours for the humble price of $2,000. Now, I have to be honest with you, as much as I love Elo, I was really quite shocked by the news of this launch, especially when I learned about these prices. I really did not understand where they were going with this because, yes, Elo has a strong brand perception. They have a very loyal following that can be enticed to spend $150, $200 on a sweat set, which is of course a lot of money in comparison to other brands. But I did not feel that the connection and the brand perception was strong enough to convince people to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a bag. I felt that they way overestimated their own brand value, and this leap was way too steep, because when it comes to spending thousands and thousands of dollars on a bag, craftsmanship should go without saying. That is a default expectation. But when you're spending this much money on a bag, you also expect a unique brand experience, you expect luxury packaging, you also want an heirloom piece, something that is unbelievably just luxurious in every sense of the word. And when I think of Elo and I see the Elo branding on a bag, the last thing I think is luxury. Yes, I might think of high quality leggings and incredible activewear. It's definitely not that luxury experience that I could justify spending thousands and thousands of dollars on. Yes, they definitely have a chance to elevate the brand, but I think it should have been done more gradually, or they could have launched a brand new range under the Elo umbrella, a brand that is not necessarily named Elo, but is only a sister brand, because I think it is quite difficult for a brand to elevate itself so much. I think they could have launched a bag collection that was more premium than what we're used to seeing from Elo, but would have set us back, let's say, $1,000 for a duffel bag. But this is too large of a jump, or at least that's what I thought at first, at least until I found out about their distribution model. So these are not things that you can buy online, as I mentioned. These are things that will be exclusively available in stores where they probably have the most loyal following. Of course, they not only have stores, but also their workout studios in both New York and LA. And you can only really get your hands on these through a personal shopper if you don't live in New York or LA. So what I came to realize is that these bags are not really meant for every single LO customers, because what was said in the press release is that LO noticed their customers wearing LO sweatsets with Chanel and Hermes bags. And while that might be the case, those people have probably spent months, if not years, saving up for these investment pieces. But I don't think that these bags are aimed at every single LO customer. I think these bags are meant for those who can afford to buy Chanel, Hermes, Bottega, and on top of all of that, they can also buy themselves an expensive gym bag. I don't think that these bags are meant to go into mass production. I don't think that the idea is that they will be taking over the world. If anything, they are just a unique offer for those who can easily drop $3,000 on a gym bag that also fits in with their already existing gym collection, if that makes sense. So the idea is not for LO to compete with Hermes and Louis Vuitton or Bottega, but to exist independently from all of those brands. I don't think that LO believes, and this is just my assumption, right? So I can only hypothesize here. But the way I see it, just because of this distribution model, is that of course LO would love to make a lot of money off of these pieces, but the idea is more to milk their already existing customer base, which I am a part of. So don't for a second think that I am being patronizing here, but the idea is to milk us for even more money, because they know that some people who buy LO can also afford to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a gym bag. And they thought, if you can buy yourself a gym bag, why not buy that gym bag with us? You're already a fan of our sweats. We can offer you similar designs at a much higher price point and at a better quality, if that makes sense. But I would love to hear your thoughts on this new launch. Can you see these pieces being successful? Again, I don't think that the idea is that every single person who buys LO will add one of their pieces to their collections instead of Chanel, instead of Hermes, instead of Louis Vuitton, but that people who are already fans of LO, people who already have the Chanels, the Hermes bags, and the Louis Vuitton bags, for them this is a new offering that they can choose to play around with if they can afford to do so. If you would like to hear my review on these bags, and if you'd like me to try them up close and personal, let me know, because I could see myself actually buying the suede tote bag, mainly because I am quite curious. But this was everything I had to share about some of the most expensive and most outrageous luxury items out there. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts in the comment section, especially when it comes to the Louis Vuitton makeup range and some of the new launches from LO. I always love hearing your thoughts. And while you're down there, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. I really appreciate you being here and watching, and I will see you back here with a new video really, really soon.